Good evening, TheoTrade. This is Corey Rosenblum, and you're watching the Theo Nightly video for the 28th of April, 2020. And we're going to focus on some earnings plays for tonight's video. And the main picture is just getting a sense of what happened overnight, or really right now, at the time of the recording of the video, and what it might mean for tomorrow's session, keeping in mind that tomorrow is a Fed day. I'm not entirely sure what they're going to announce that's new in terms of policy, but we will be watching the market for any type of surprise events and sudden volatility. But until then, we'll focus on the S&P on the right side, which is going to be our daily chart. And in a moment, we'll look at the intraday chart only to get a sense of where these stocks have traded, especially Google and Starbucks. First, we have this bear flag, or this bounce in play from the 2200 all the way to 2900. And that's going to be a critical resistance point. Keep in mind that we'll just draw this out here in reference to 2900 in the past, really 2911, which is Don's gravity spot. And we can see how that plays into today's session and maybe the future, which could be a departure down. So if you are getting bared up, we recommend that. If you're putting puts or buying puts or getting long premium to expect a sell swing or departure down away from 2900, this is a spot to do that. Guaranteed to happen? Of course not. But it is more probable than not. And that's really what a trade winds up being. And you can see how this market has rotated around this particular point. It was, again, today's high and low, 2911, and then roughly 2860. So think about that as in terms of an inflection point or marker in the middle. That's going to divide the play. Actually, let's make this a little bit larger for reference and go show you all how to go back in time here. A few more years in the past. And just to emphasize what this level is and how important it is for us right now. Again, it's that 2900. It was the peak before a crash in early 2018. Just a little sneak above it in later 2018. And a couple of pivots down and supports against in 2019. We've sliced all the way through, so it's about the halfway point, roughly speaking, of this 3400, 2200, all the way back to the middle, and that will be a pivot. Again, if you're looking for duration plays, might be a good spot if you haven't already to put on some puts. I say put on puts, but purchase puts, or get long premium to the downside. Don's working you through an back ratio and the Russell and the QQQ. And we can do other things like that, long volatility and just different components. If the market is to rotate or trade lower, it will do it here. If it does not, it will break through here. So 2900 is going to be a critical short-term pivot, and that will affect us on the intraday frame as well. Now, let's jump right back into some stocks. And what I have here, I'll just show this. It is, we'll attach that, days until earnings. This could be in the TheoTrade members shared studies page or just in general. Days until earnings can be done through a scan, or I like to do things with a watch list on the left side of the chart. That way it allows me to quickly scan or sort. Again, you can use this as a scan function. And all it means is 0 is that earnings took place before the market opened. For example, PepsiCo and Caterpillar and Triple M. It was a trend day in Triple M. And if it says 0.5, that means the earnings took place after the market close, which is right now at the time I'm recording the video for you tonight. So you'll know by the time the video is published some other information I don't have. But at the moment, we're looking at how the market is reacting, or I guess these particular stocks, how they reacted, and how that may play into tomorrow's sessions. So what we'll be doing is viewing the 1-minute chart. If the market, I'll take the 5-minute chart into account. And that's your earnings play for PepsiCo and how it plays on the daily chart. And Caterpillar as well. Right, not a lot went on. And Don, I think Don's right. With this, earnings may just be a punt. I'm not going to look at the numbers. You can certainly dig within the data at the fundamental tab, analyze tab, and some different little ways to look at earnings and how to play those, what the earnings are, expectations, etc. But this just might be a wash, this particular earnings season with the coronavirus, the economy shut down. So there's little nuances that may let us punt this season, so to speak. Nevertheless, Caterpillar does remain downtrending. Its pivot again is just 115 and 120 per share. Not a whole lot to write home about in today's session. Triple M, on the other hand, was a trend candidate that reversed midday. So it had a play to the upside after yesterday's earnings overnight, pushed up, came down. And Triple M, will update our chart, has a critical support at roughly 160 per share, which is roughly where the stock is trading right now. Pfizer, not a lot to report there. There's your up and all the way down. So I'm just going to update the charts for us on the daily perspective. And Pfizer has a downtrend up against where it is now, just shy of 40 per share or 39. This is a big trend candidate. We mentioned it today. Was UPS. It was actually one of the biggest trending stocks in the S&P 100, down 6%. That began with a little up move and a plunge throughout today's session. It as well has critical support about 93 and resistance up into 120. Merck, last thing we'll look at in the S&P that had earnings today, was down 3% on a earnings play, or yesterday's pre-market earnings actually. Pre-market earnings down, 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 and that's going to play into another chop zone. Now it's getting interesting because we have Starbucks that reported just now that might not be showing up on today's chart right as the market closes, so you'll have this information tomorrow, Wednesday, and beyond. Starbucks has a pivot at 80 per share, which is where we're going to be watching. That's the volatility of today's session, and the earnings might not be picking up at the moment. And then Mondelez, that's some volatility, right? Remember, we're looking at the market with the overnight session hours on an intraday chart here, and where it plays into the daily chart there. Mondelez might not be a stock that you trade, but I bet you have positions or at least are interested in what happens to Google or Google shares trade. That might affect the market in tomorrow's session. So we will for sure, if you watch nothing else, and how the market plays into earnings right after the close today, or the morning open, we'll watch Google. And that is pushed up from 1240 to 1280. And where's the context of that? 1300 is your pivot. And we can draw a line. This is Goog itself. We'll take a look at Google, which is where I think the trend lines I have are. So it's probably best to play into Google. So that's where we're looking at the play. So that took away the entirety of the down move in today's session. It'll end, or at the moment at least, where the market opened. That's about 1250, just shy of 1300. And then the other stocks for tomorrow's session, just for reference if you are interested, would be General Electric. These are before the market opens because it says 1. And again, daily chart over here. Boeing might be one to watch very closely. Critical support there at 120. MasterCard, General Dynamics. And after the market closes, after the Fed meeting for that matter, we'll be perked up with more interest because Facebook, it's going to report, and it's already volatile. And Microsoft, volatility sneaks in. That's maybe in part because of Google, or maybe just an errant print, but still, Microsoft will report tomorrow, as will Qualcomm. These names are in play. Probably not going to make positions like you would with butterflies or earnings expected moves, but watch this earnings season, see what happens, see if there are surprises, and how that plays into the intraday tape with respect to what the Federal Reserve announces in tomorrow's session. That's Wednesday, 29th of April there. But this is the 28th, and thank you for watching tonight's video. Be careful and be safe.